He stood on the threshold of a brilliant career in physics and then he vanished. Ettore Majorana disappeared without explanation, leaving behind letters that sounded like a farewell, a telegram that contradicted them, and a trail of rumors that has never fully gone cold. Did he hide behind monastery walls? Did he emigrate to Argentina? Or did he walk into the sea and end it all? On the evening of March 25, 1938, a 31-year-old Italian physicist named Ettore Majorana boarded the overnight mail ship in Naples bound for Palermo, Sicily. Before leaving, he wrote 2 letters. The first, left in his room at the Hotel Bologna, was addressed to his family and contained a strange request. I only have one wish, that you will not wear black on my behalf. Should you want to observe social customs, wear any other sign of mourning if you must, but for no longer than 3 days. After that, remember me in your hearts and, if you are capable of it, forgive me. The message carried the ominous weight of a suicide note. The second letter, sent by mail, seemed to confirm that Majorana intended to disappear for good. It was addressed to Antonio Carelli, director of the Physics Institute at the University of Naples, where Majorana had been lecturing since January. I have made a decision that was unavoidable, he wrote. There is not a grain of egoism in it, yet I am well aware that my unexpected disappearance will be an inconvenience to you and the students. Therefore, I ask you to forgive me above all for having cast aside the trust, sincere friendship, and kindness you have shown me. Before Carelli received that letter, a telegram from Majorana arrived, sent from Palermo, ordering him to disregard what had been mailed from Naples. Then came a second letter dated March 26, also posted from Palermo. Dear Carelli, Majorana wrote, the sea rejected me. I will return tomorrow to the Hotel Bologna. However, I intend to give up teaching. I will be at your disposal for further details. On the surface, it suggested a suicide attempt abandoned or interrupted. Yet it did not lead to a return. Carelli never saw Majorana again. Neither did his family. From that point on, the young physicist became a ghost, a brilliant perfectionist. Everyone who knew Majorana agreed on one thing: his mind was exceptional. His mentor, Nobel laureate Enrico Fermi, went so far as to place Majorana in the same rare category as Galileo and Newton. Born in Catania, Sicily, on August 5, 1906, Ettore startled those around him almost from the beginning. At 4, he could solve complicated mathematical problems in his head with astonishing speed. Educated first at home and later in Rome, he completed secondary school at the Liceo Torquato Tasso before turning 17. In 1923, he entered the University of Rome to study engineering. Among his fellow students were his older brother Luciano and Emilio Seeger, who persuaded him to switch to physics. In 1928, Majorana joined the Institute of Theoretical Physics under Fermi. A year later, he earned his doctorate with distinction and continued working with Fermi on nuclear physics problems for the next 5 years. Majorana published only 9 papers between 1928 and 1937, yet they continue to inspire admiration. They reveal a deep command of experimental data, an ability to simplify problems without losing their essence, and an uncompromising perfectionism. His sharp criticism of others earned him the nickname the Grand Inquisitor, but he was hardest on himself, a trait that may explain both the slow pace and the small quantity of his published work. At Fermi's urging, Majorana left Italy in early 1933 on a grant from the National Research Council. In Leipzig, he met Werner Heisenberg, another Nobel laureate. Letters Majorana later wrote to Heisenberg suggest he found not only a scientific peer, but a genuine friend. Heisenberg urged him to publish more quickly. Majorana hesitated. A crisis develops. In the fall of 1933, Majorana returned to Rome in poor health. He had developed acute gastritis in Germany and appeared to be suffering from nervous exhaustion. Put on a strict diet, he grew withdrawn and increasingly harsh with his family. Even with his mother, once a source of warmth, his tone changed. He told her he would not join the family's customary summer vacation by the sea. He appeared at the institute less and less, then barely left home at all. The promising physicist became a recluse. For nearly 4 years he isolated himself, cut ties with friends, and stopped publishing. Only in 1937 did he re-enter public life. After the long silence, he published what would become his final scientific paper and applied for a professorship. In November, he was appointed professor of theoretical physics at the University of Naples. But Naples did not bring confidence. His lectures were poorly attended. Many students simply could not follow him. On January 22, 1938, he asked his brother to transfer all his money from a bank in Rome to one in Naples. In March, he requested a lump sum of his untouched salary. With that cash and his passport, Majorana boarded the ship on March 25 and vanished, looking for clues. The investigation in the weeks after his disappearance produced leads that seemed promising and then collapsed. On March 26, the day Majorana sent the telegram in his second letter to Carelli, he presumably boarded the returning mail ship from Palermo to Naples. Shipping authorities later said a ticket in his name had been surrendered at the dock. When asked for proof, they claimed the canceled ticket had been lost. A witness first stated he had shared a cabin with Majorana, then admitted he could not be sure his traveling companion was the missing physicist. Meanwhile, a nurse who knew Majorana well insisted she had seen him in Naples after the ship returned on March 26. Into a monastery? Majorana's family published a missing person notice with his photograph. In July, they received a response. The abbot of the monastery Gisa Nuovo in Naples said a young man strongly resembling Majorana had visited in late March or early April, asking to be admitted as a guest. When the abbot hesitated, the young man left and never returned. Unfortunately, the abbot could not fix the date precisely, making it impossible to know whether the visit occurred before or after the trip to Palermo. Another lead followed. On April 12, a young man matching Majorana's photograph reportedly applied for admission to the monastery San Pasquale di Portici. He was turned down there as well and left. Decades later, writer Leonardo Sciascia proposed a compelling theory. Exhausted by the world, burdened by the obligations of his genius, and perhaps disillusioned by his stalled teaching career, Majorana sought refuge in religious life somewhere he could live anonymously in prayer and contemplation. Escape to Argentina? The last and perhaps most intriguing trail leads to South America. In 1950, the Chilean physicist Carlos Rivera, living in Buenos Aires, mentioned Majorana's name around the home where he was lodging. An elderly woman told him her son knew a man named Majorana no longer working in physics but in engineering. Rivera left before he could pursue the lead. Then, in 1960, Rivera found himself in a hotel restaurant, absent-mindedly scribbling mathematical formulas on a napkin. A waiter approached him. "I know somebody else who shares your habit of scribbling mathematics on napkins," he said. "He comes here from time to time. His name is Ettore Majorana, and he was an important physicist in Italy before the war when he fled his country to come here." Again, the clue dissolved. The waiter could not provide an address, and Rivera had to leave without an answer. 3 old ladies keep their secret. Word of Rivera's discoveries reached Italy in the late 1970s. Physics professor Erasmo Recami and Majorana's sister Maria traveled to pursue the Argentine leads and uncovered another possible link. While visiting Italy, the widow of Guatemalan writer Miguel Angel Asturias said she had met Majorana in the 1960s at the home of sisters Eleonora and Lilo Manzoni. Majorana, she claimed, was close to Eleonora, a mathematician. But when pressed, she retreated. She had not met Majorana directly, only heard of his contact with Eleonora. Eleonora had died by then. Lilo and Mrs. Asturias' sister, both elderly, were unable or unwilling to answer questions. Had they formed a pact of silence? The case once again slipped out of reach. Because 2 unrelated lines of inquiry pointed to Argentina, some investigators judged it more likely that Majorana fled there in 1938 than that he entered a monastery or committed suicide. Why he left so abruptly remains unclear and may never be known. Perhaps Fermi's dry comment best captures the puzzle. If Majorana truly wanted to vanish without a trace, a mind like his could have made it happen. Only a literary solution? By the time the public had largely forgotten Majorana's disappearance, Leonardo Sciascia revived the mystery with the Majorana Case 1975, a work he called a philosophical mystery novel. Sciascia became aware of the case in 1972, when the National Research Council asked Recami to organize Majorana's scientific papers. In doing so, Recami found overlooked clues and shared them with Sciascia. The novelist proposed a provocative motive. Majorana, with his exceptional intelligence, may have understood earlier than most the destructive potential of atomic energy and refused to participate in anything that could contribute to a future weapon for Mussolini's fascist regime. The thesis stirred controversy. Edoardo Amaldi, who completed his doctorate under Fermi a year after Majorana, argued that no scientist in the 1930s could foresee where nuclear research would ultimately lead. Recami, who knew Majorana's work intimately, did not rule the theory out. To him, it remained one possibility among many. And so the question persists unanswered, unsettling, and strangely modern. Did Ettore Majorana die, hide, or reinvent himself, simply to escape what his own genius had revealed?